Very good. It's a great pleasure to be here. It is an honor. I'd like to say that it's a privilege to be here with Lala and the boys. We know each other, but it's great to be here with them. To talk a little bit now about my background, I'd like to tell you a story. In the year 2000, I was living in Holland. I was from who is from Isaac International here? I was in Holland, and I was like undergoing a crisis. Half of my colleagues there were being recruited for the corporate world with cool positions, and I was like, I didn't want to join the same path, but it was more an intuition, you know that you don't want to do that, but you don't know why. So I finished my course there and closed my circle there, and I did several retreats to find out what I wanted to do from then on. And then I went to an eco village, Findhorn. Has anybody ever heard of Findhorn, one of the eco villages in Scotland? And I was very lucky to meet an American biologist, Margaret Whitley. She's a person with great heart, very open person, and she told me a story that gave me an insight. It gave me direction all the way to nowadays. And I want to share this story. And the story is, now I need the boys to help me here on how to click. I'm not sure if this is going to work, but can you show my presentation, please? Lala helped me here. She says that organic and live system has a life cycle. It is born, it grows, and then it has its decadence cycle. It happens for the economic cycles, political cycles. It could be a company, a large organization. And in a moment, what happens is that these dots there are innovators, people that are coming out of this system asking themselves, I want to do something different, but I don't know what it is. And I felt I was one of them. And there are other, Oswaldo, Lala, Murilo, Edgar, several other people here. But what they want to do doesn't have a title yet. But then we started inventing titles and names, and then started giving, attributing names to this. And then they created a new practice. And we didn't even know what we were doing, but we were doing. And then we started networking, connecting in a network. And in this moment where, it's distributed, but it has like a tribe quality. And then these guys are called mad people, crazy people that started getting connected. But then they started getting organized and creating a practical community. And that which was a bit crazy became something organized, a new way of doing things. But it's not well seen or widespread by people. And then we have a new system of influence that emerges. And I said, I'm not sure what I want to do, but I want to be in this curve down here because I want to practice something brand new, and I don't know exactly how to do this. And somehow this panel today is an informal chat about this curve down here. All the people that are here with us, Lala, Oswaldo, Murilo, they are examples, incredible examples of people that are living this new practice. It is very interesting to see that we are here in the Social Good Brazil today, and this practice here has a stage. It is indeed a sign that something is out there. And what is being out there, being seen? This is the question I wanted to launch. Murilo, I call you a civic entrepreneur because your company engages people in a way of civic and social works. The question is, can you talk a little bit about what you're doing in the Benfeitoria? And from your standpoint, what can we see? Which kind of news are we getting? It is what, in the whole, what is the greatest thing that you are seeing? Share your experience, your practical experience, but I'd like you to say, well, I'm living this, but I feel is that we are touching something much greater than that. So what is that?
It's a great question. So first, I'd like to thank being here. We didn't know that this event was going to be so big. I started talking about crowdfunding and social innovation, and it was hard for us to engage people, as this number of people. It's nice. Actually, I have this problem. I can't talk sitting down, but we only have 5 minutes to speak. But I'm going to tell you a little bit about my background, what I've been doing with a group of bunch of crazy people. I worked for Coca-Cola during 8 years in marketing. I've learned a lot there. I've learned how to do communication. I'm actually in love with the topic because I lived that and I know how big and impacting communication is. And then after that time, I got this selfish crisis thinking, hey man, in 20 years I have to be telling a story to my son, and then what? I'm gonna be telling him that I helped selling soda to society, and then I started having this identity crisis, thinking I like this a lot, but this is not what I want to do anymore. So then, what should I do? And I decided to disconnect with everything. It was a time for me to sit down and reflect. So during this deep dive, that I had to do, and I was actually taking the risk of quitting without knowing what to do, I saw that clearly we are living a revolution. Maybe we don't have that sensation sometimes, but remember the French Revolution? Can you imagine, in the bars back in the French Revolution times? Maybe they felt like that too. And one of the critical facts that actually really helped me to do is are actually clear data, but let me just summarize what I can say to you. 70% of people today are in crisis. They're having professional crisis. They are unsatisfied with their jobs. 85 people in the world, 85 people hold the wealth of more than 3 billion people. This is severe. This is a structural problem. It's not a small one. And then in my understanding, the way I express that, what are the cause of the causes? What is the problem? Us, as society, we are anchored in individual values. Our society is created since we're little. Our programming is we're so good in competing, but we're not good in coexisting with others. And I'm trying to use everything that I learned in communications, how to rescue collective values, with less barriers, less engagement barriers in order to speed up this revolution. So to make long story short, 4 years ago, we started our first movement, Benfeitoria, which was the first platform in Brazil. We have more than 300 projects in this specific platform for collective interest, but along the way, we know that we could have done and we should have done much more, but we are now launching technologies that empower individuals so they can make things feasible in network. And how can we really, we have to get out of the bubble. It's important to see that the bubble is growing, but the revolution will actually help if we actually blow this bubble in fast. And the projects, how can we put our projects in the streets? New models are important. Author projects are important because the first urban innovation called Bem Mais, which is an interdependence cycles between organizations with the city halls, universities, and companies, and civil society, which is PPPP in PPP, public-private partnership together with people. So it's 4P now. We're including people in the process, and we're putting them outside of Rio de Janeiro, where I'm from, and outside of Brazil. It's a way of exporting digital technology or social technology. We want to take that to Portugal next year. It's just to answer in a clear way your question. The feeling is that we are very close to have this structural change, it's important for us to notice that not only find out the reality, I mean, what's happening, but how we perceive reality. So when we can actually switch that key, it depends on us. We need to remove this water. I mean, the boat, it has holes, right? But we need to be able to build up a new boat, and it's going to be, and it has to be more beautiful than what you're doing now. We don't know where we're going, but the way gets better, and more beautiful all the time. Very cool. Let me ask you something. It's out of curiosity. At Benfeitoria, people start investing money to make other people's projects feasible. Why? Why is it now? I mean, why is this happening in such a big way? Why this thing's happening? We see that crowdfunding is happening everywhere with that. This is competing, for instance, with fundraising, with the strategies in very conventional areas of Brazil. I mean, how can I go beyond endowments and actually make people engage? What does crowdfunding, or what could crowdfunding capture? Why are people so willing? I think technology reveals human needs. The need that we have for the moment is this. Crowdfunding's technology only potentializes that make people meet to make incredible projects feasible. Of course, there's a cultural thing. People didn't believe that. It's a Brazilian thing. What? I'm gonna donate money to somebody that I don't even know? See, we don't trust people. We have that crisis. So when we begin a movement that yes, we can mobilize ourselves as individuals to make projects feasible, not depending on institutions. And now we're breaking paradigms. We always think, oh yeah, to finance something we need the bank, we need the government, we need the organization. No, the movement can come, yes, from up, down, up. And the power that we have to make more projects it's obvious that in Brazil this is still happening. We've been doing this for only 4 years, and of course the curve is ascending. But just there's one platform, one crowdfunding platform in the United States moves $1.2 billion in innovative products. This is more than what the federal government in Brazil spends in culture, for instance. So this is just for you to feel how big, how macroeconomic this is, not micro anymore. Very cool. So there is a confidence crisis, and this platform are actually breaking those, right? And empowering people, making people get close to each other. So let me bring Oswaldo to the discussion, because we're actually neighbors pretty much, right? That's cool. And then the question is similar. I mean, what are you living now, Oswaldo? I want to know what's happening in your little house, Oswaldo. How do you read that? What really motivates you right now? I'm going to let me correct something. My friend says that when you're rich and valiant and brave, nobody says that's wrong. Even though people think I'm brave and rich, Edgar was really generous, because otherwise it seems like, yeah, look at him. He's donating, he's just making endowments to a house. Actually, I am a person that likes to transform, innovate. I'm restless because I come from the financial market, and having these characteristics, I was never really happy. I mean, I couldn't really accept or tolerate some things, or that things didn't work better, and then we could, that we don't have access to things that we wish. People think that's not so healthy, but I am the way I am. This is how I am, and I was always looking for new alternatives, and having this organizational point of view, though, because we had a way of solving problems that kind of generated or caused a consequence. I've always worked, and I've always made money, never worked, never stopped working, always trying to solve the way, the organizational way in order to leave the problem. And that's how I started entering the networking universe. And then the way we organize ourselves, we have an organizational way, globally speaking, which is what we call the industrial model, which is an organization that excludes the possibilities of distributing connections. The movement of an organization is to speculate in the ideas field, and when we make a choice, we cut all the possible connections, focusing there, and we die looking for expecting efficiency, and we're not able to reconnect in the field of possibilities. I am an economist. Economy is the science of scarcity. We were all raised with the idea that there's not enough for everything. But then I always question myself: what if we organized? What if we get organized? What if we try? Because we're always afraid of not having in the future. So maybe by being afraid, we were attracting that. You know, Laboriosa 89 is a prototypization. It's a physical environment, of course, but everything that's there has the intention of removing exclusion, creating diversity, generating abundance. So the key is there. You don't have to register anything. You don't need to be a member. Don't need to show any documents to copy, use the house. There is no curatorship, no pre or post judgment of what's done in the house. There is no management or responsible. There are no meetings, no decisive meetings, because there's nothing to decide. It's an open structure that removes the things that we use to get organized by excluding. So we're trying to find that path, to having an inclusive organization, which that proves the thesis of abundance. So I want to implement an organization that is actually abundant. I want you to tell us a story or a scene, saying that some experience that you had, the sensation when you know Laboriosa. We're not talking about an organization. The organization that you promote, that promotes changing behavior. So yeah, there's an environment, yes, but it's an invitation for something to be done. How do you see people are there? I mean, what? How do you perceive that? Can you tell us a scene? Well, the learning process, the most important thing is to understand that the way you do things informs. Is not the content, but the way you do it, it's what passes the information. Because in a whatever, if you have some organizational program, how people organize itself, boss, assistant, and worker down there. There's one way to go. You can go up, yeah. So there are more people up than down, but there are more people down than up, because you have one at the top and a bunch of people. Of course, that next to you have a rival. There's no use of having activities for everybody holding hands, because the game is so clear. When you change the way to do things and you remove that shape, and then the structure is more well distributed, when there are ways for everybody, there's not only one way, or not only just one way to get there. You can go anywhere to any site. The behavior changes. At Laboriosa, we see that. People arrive there, a person arrives there and starts to, where's the reception? There's no reception. Where's the responsible? There's no responsible. Where's it? How can I do? The key is there. But what can I do? What do I have to do? Nothing. How can I? Who approves what I want to do? Nobody. How do I do it? go to the schedule and see if it's free, and you put there and you use it. But what if there's somebody there? Well, talk to that person and come to an understanding. But this is different, isn't it? Yes, it is. So nobody has the need to fight, because there's a degree of freedom of going back and forth. Of course, my behavior changes. So touching the shape or the way things are done, that's the biggest challenge. I mean, to look less to the content and be brave enough to open yourself, to change the paradigm. So not choosing something of organizing, because we always organize ourselves because of fear. What if? Okay, so let's protect here. I made some another protection there, and then when it's ready, person arrives. I mean, it's there. The behavior is based on fear and distrust. So then we want to include people. We want to embrace people. And then you behave like that, because there's no other way to do things, because the environment makes you feel that way.
Qual é o teu título organizacional?
What is your organizational title in your organizational chart? What are you? Who are you? What is your position? There's another thing from the industrial society. This industrial society simplifies the connections distributed, which are complex. Imagine the profusion of possible relations here and how complex a human being is. The power of one human being is unique and huge. So you cannot define one human being by a standard position. So call a person an economist or a programmer. You're not a standard or a manager or director. Your name tells you who you are. So in an environment where the control, you take hierarchy out of the picture, you gain abundance, you gain freedom, you access a field of possibilities, but you have this small inconvenience. You have to deal and address things within yourself. So a distributed environment fosters self-knowledge. So when I introduce myself on the website, who are you? Oswaldo Oliveira. But what do you do? I do what I can. Very good. So we are very lucky to have somebody here in the on stage to put together Murilo and Oswaldo's story, and Lala, the invitation for you to be here. Somebody with your vocation is to help, get all these dots connected. So what are these practices of the Benfeitoria, of Laboriosa? Where do they fit in? How do we connect them? Let me get this here. It is great to be here. I'm so pleased to be in Florianopolis. It has a fantastic potential. And it's great to have this opportunity of summarizing, because this is what I try to do in my life. Observe all the things that are happening, and I joke by saying I am a futurist and I am a summarizer, and I work with tools as well. You talked about other names. Perhaps you would say that you are an activist, you are an activator, and a organizational chartist, so to say. You make flows. You are an activator and you bring flow to it. So perhaps after being an economist, you can be a fluxonomist, so to say. So I think that the first thing to understand here in the middle of the French Revolution is to understand what's happening. And when we think about futures and understanding the history, there is an infinite field, which is all the possible futures that we could conceive. So we need to understand what is likely, and we need to find what is the likely future. The likely future, we react towards it in a reactive manner. warming, global warming, and all that, and all the R's of the reactive. And the future is less and less likely. So we need to do things in a different manner. We cannot foresee the future. So we will not come out of the reactive standpoint. So for us to find new ways of doing things, we need to go over to the creative side, because in the creative there is desire. What do I want? Because if I don't desire, I won't do it. So in the creative, we have all the C's that are behind everything that is connected to the new ways of seeing, the co-create, trust, collaborate, connect. And it's interesting because the desirable futures, when they come up, they seem to be like delirious. When internet came up, nobody thought that would really happen. And this usually happens. It seems like a crazy stuff, and then suddenly it takes place. And how do we go from reactive to creative? In the action that broadens possibilities, which is what you do. And most of you that are here broaden what is possible, because you show that what is impossible is actually possible. Edgar said, can we reach 4 billion people? Yes. And how do we do this? With bridges, with people, with partnerships, with producing, with potentials, and so on. So the first thing is changing the mindset of not trying to work on the likely, but working on the desirable. Can we do that? Is that possible? Yes. If we leave scarcity, as Oswaldo was saying, and how do we leave scarcity and go to abundance? The greatest problems is that we have scarcity because the challenges we have are exponential, but our answer capacity is linear because we have an economy which has limited resources. We have organizational structures that are also scarce. So how things happen? We need to find and seek exponential. Where is Wally? Where is exponential? And of course, the first thing that's exponential is everything related to intangible things, culture, knowledge, creativity. An apple you will eat, and that's it. We won't fight over it. But knowledge can be exponential. But how can I work with exponential? And then we have technology and network. When we feel that the path is rich, exponential, we need to understand how. First, going through a situation where we see the intangible. And it's interesting that all the metrics that we use actually hinder us from go there, restrict us from going there, looking tangible and intangible, and looking at sustainability tripod. First thing that happens, the first weird thing that's there is that it leaves out a key point. Software. Nothing will happen and work without creativity, experience, and intelligence. And we perceive that we are not exponentializing things and creating desirable future because we don't have the most important part, which is culture. In the cultural aspect is included all the values, all the languages, and everything that we believe in. And the second thing, which is really bizarre, so to say, we call it economic as in a dimension, so that all the other dimensions are worthless. Cultural, social, knowledge, all the technological and natural structures, all the organizations, they are worthless. So perhaps it would be the case of us calling it financial, because economy would be everything, the flow of resources on the 4 points. So for the fluxonomists, we'll do this. Resources flow on the 4 areas. And seeking exponential, what can we see? So the origin of this rationale behind this. We're not talking about one new economy, but a combination of 4 new economies, one in each dimension. The first one, which is in the cultural dimension, which is the base, is everything that is related to creativity, values, not only creative industry, but if I, do eggs, but if I do happy eggs, then it is valuable. So then we have creative economy. Then we have a second economy, which is key, and it's on the base of all these things that are making the difference, which is possible thanks to technology, is to the possibility of making the best use of infrastructure through sharing, generating processes that map and share what is there. Shared world. And then we have a third, which is related to organizational model, a model of managing things, which is distributed, which is the collaborative economy. And looking at all this, wow, everything will be perfect, everybody will be happy, everything is beautiful. But there is a problem. All of this is invisible because we don't have metrics. We cannot see this because we think that wealth is currency. So what we see is that the key is in another value notion that is not only monetary, quantitative, and numerical in a multi-currency economy. And this is our practice. You were asking about practice, practical, is to work on these 4 dimensions. And then for this to be possible is the 4D prosperity, working with resources on the 4 dimensions, knowledge, creativity, cultural, the entire techno-natural infrastructure, everything that is related to managing the collective, and all flows in the nature, but not only with resources, but with results on these 4 dimensions. This makes the difference, as well as using resources that are not only quantitatives and monetary, but we can optimize and generate more in each of these 4 dimensions. So this is, in a nutshell, what I can see with this 4D point of view. We're coming from the improbable to the desirable, and this is possible because of a combination of 4 economies, 4 dimensions, and another way of seeing things that is not linear, because linear is really scarce, and we can see that there are multiple dimensions, and these multiple dimensions can bring, in fact, abundance if we really work on them. This is my point of view, my standpoint here. Well, we had social media to come up here. We have virtual participants, and we have a representative here. Virtual is very abstract, but now here she is. It's very concrete now. And the idea is for you to share a question from the virtual audience. So let me share here. My name is Vanessa Guiar de Jesus. I have a good name for sharing the voice of the people, because that's the voice of God, isn't it? The bad news is that things are very quiet. People are just posting very good sentences you've been saying, but questions haven't come up yet. Thank God I'm a journalist. And I've got some questions. As a journalist and also as a spectator, I'd like Oswaldo to give an example of a project from Laboriosa 89 so that we can bring here down on earth concrete examples of what these people do there. They live, breathe. Well, life. When you open the doors, life will come in. The most distributed thing we have is life. So everything takes place, really. Laboriosa's environment is not the house. It's the house plus the group on Facebook. You can join there, Laboriosa 89. It's not only the physical house, but the group on Facebook is open. We have over 6,000 people, 6,030 people. The house, the physical house, has 300 square meters, and 300 people come there every day. It is always open. Everybody has the key, and it works 24/7. 3 stories, one for the guys. They work to, like offices. an open space, open office. The second room is like a hall and a kitchen. They use this for yoga, for dancing, arts lessons, gastronomy events, collective lunch events. It's a community living together. So if you look at it, it's like a small town. And the part on the ground floor is more private, and they use also for meetings, but there it's more private, so to say. And this characterized with the free interaction. People share their dreams, their desires, possibilities, resources, needs, loves. So many things have. People fall in love, people build companies, they join projects together, and there are hundreds of visible projects there. What is interesting is that it actually encourages people to create new inclusive organizations. So all the initiatives we have there try to find this kind of standards. So we have new houses that were born from there. This week, some guys got together, they rented another space to have a maker space with CNC, hardware, 3D printers, and have the same organizational standards. They have initiatives that are on the media right now, running for prizes, and people got together and connected in this way of schooling, the new schooling model. They went, to teach in parks, in bank lines. There are many initiatives for people to connect in regards to self-knowledge, because the environment fosters this, a lot of design thinking, a lot of business models that are being, that test this distributed organization. So a lot of things takes place there. Some people spend the night there in the house, which is something very touching for us. For me, is that we don't realize how many people don't have a place to spend the night, even though there are people that we don't think that are at the margin of society. People that sometimes become homeless, or people because they have a dream. People from the state of Ceará, northern Brazil, and they come to São Paulo, and then they are suddenly homeless and don't have any cash. So people spend the night there. Really there is a lot happening there. Another thing that was really intriguing was that the structure is not hierarchical, and it's people. And human beings are human beings anywhere, right? So when something happens that is kind of out of control, well, look at me talking about control. He's going to beat me up here. Something, like that, like a fight or some human relationship that goes wrong, so to say. The community itself will auto-regulate itself, or what happens? What happens is when you take this center, you take the parents out of the picture. This father, this paternalistic figure, we're always trying to find the boss, the father, the government, and then it's the person that will actually solve the conflict for you. They will say what's wrong and right and wrong. So when that figure is out of the picture, you only have you. So the great exercise of living, the abundance, is directly connected with inclusion. And then diversity is very important. If you have abundance, you need to live with the different. And living with the different people is not that you have to agree or disagree. You need to have different opinions in a loving way. And this is something we don't know how to do. That's cool. Let me wrap up here. So an environment like this, when you change the organizational chart, you change the format, you create a laboratory to create ways of solving conflicts in a loving way, because a free environment will go into other people's spaces, but then they learn. They learn how to live with each other, and they find out an internal capacity that they did not know they have. And everybody shines. Believe that. You can believe that. This is it. We need to finish now, but those guys that are online, those guys that are here, do ask questions so that we can bring your voice from the network here to the stage so that we can have a more productive discussion. Thank you very much. Our virtual angel. We are going to wrap up this panel, and I want to launch a last question, which is, I was really impressed when Airbnb came sharing their house. If somebody had told us once, 20 years ago, that this movement would become movement, and now we have a $10 million income from this revenue, really, and it's happened. But taking this Airbnb, which is an example of sharing something more private, that's going to a different level now. People are building apartments only for that sharing. And I want to bring here from Laboriosa, Benfeitoria, if what you are experiencing currently, you take it to another dimension, intensifying it, what would be possible? What is the potential of what we can see? The transformational potential. What can we see? It's difficult to say. It will happen. I'd like it to happen. It's likely. It's desirable. But what is knocking on our door from the standpoint that you are, or from the standpoint of governments and large organizations? So what do you feel that you are knocking door and say, well, something is calling me over there? We need to be aware of that because it's coming, and it's a great opportunity of transformation. I think you probably intuitively are thinking about this. We have 30 seconds only, so we are going to go over the time a little bit, so don't stand. Very quickly. Pablo wants to ask philosophical questions and ask us to answer in 15 seconds. So humanity is actually not giving out all the potential. And Oswaldo say that we waste a lot of energy when we manage to make. Actually, I think digital technology is not an issue, it's not a challenge. The challenge is how social technology is developed, and digital technology is only reading this well. That it can reflect these new models, these new formats, these human insights, as Edgar said. To be sustainable, it needs to be sexy, fun, easy. And this will really make us break these barriers. What is knocking on our door is rethink the entire organization we created in the industrial society. All these new institutions we're living now, they were created 100 years ago, and they don't make sense now. So government, company, university, the shell is breaking apart because the model in which they were structured doesn't make sense anymore. So who are the new engineers that will think this novelty? And the challenge is, let's not only think about mending the broken walls, but how are we going to create this new format? Because if we only think about problems, we will never think about building this new house. Everybody wants to live in this new house. Cool, great. A hand of applause, please. Our time is up. And Lala, the question goes for you as well. Well, this is what I do in my life, right? Because the story of being a futurist, to see what are the forces, what is the likelihood, and the future coming from here and broadening. So everything that seems very small today, it's actually huge. Each cases that are here in this meeting is like, very small plant. But when you see a very small plant, you might think it's just weed and not a huge tree. And yes, we are going to gain great scale here, but in a different way from what we imagined, because it will be gaining scale by several small articulating. This is the great thing. This is the great change. Is not scale by repetition. Is not the Airbnb model, but is like several people connected or several institutions connected. I have a book that you can download that talks about what could be this world. And you can download on criefuturos.com. What I've done in my life is to play with my granddaughter, and she tells me what the future is like from the standpoint of what we are discussing here. And there are many things. It's not on the great media, it's not in the academy, but a lot of things happening and growing in the exponential fashion. Edgar, I made an account. If from one person each month, each and every one of us hold hands to what you called, brought one more person to the idea of collaborative, trust, creative, and so on, how long do you think it would take, bringing one per month, changing their mindset, to come to 7 billion inhabitants? It is exponential. 34 months. So the future is likely, not really, but very desirable and very possible. What we can do is connect, but Mr. Fullage says that to change a paradigm, you create a new one, you make the old one obsolete. And this is the practices we are seeing here. Thank you. Guys, that's it. Murilo, Oswaldo, Lala, thank you for your contribution. Thank you, all of you. So this is the first thing on this topic. Thank you for the invitation.